But man, I wish I would have kept that bat, man. I wish I would have kept that bat from that bat day. That bat was probably right now. It's probably worth some money, man. I think I broke the bat playing street ball in Chicago, man. I think I got mad at something and I end up slamming the bat down. The bat broke in half. I remember slamming it down in the street, and the bat broke. I wish I would have kept that bat. That bat is probably worth like $600 right now. Um, but it was bat day at the old Comiskey Park, man. It was just a awesome day. It was a Sunday afternoon game. Tommy John was on the mound. I wish there was camera phones back then, because to me it was a huge deal. It was my first Major League Baseball game ever, so it was just a big deal, man. Big deal to me. Um, you know, I'm sure it wasn't my dad's first game. My dad grew up in Brooklyn. He used to go to Brooklyn Dodger games all the time. He's seen Jackie Robinson in person. He's seen Duke Snyder in person. He's seen, um, he used to go to Yankee Stadium too as a kid. He's seen Ted Williams in person. He's seen Hank Aaron in person. He's seen Mickey Mantle in person. So my dad was a big baseball fan too. But since that was my first game, it was a bigger deal to me. Um, you know, and I don't know, man. I just miss the old Comiskey Park in Chicago, because you know it didn't hit me until later on in that day. It didn't hit me till now, really. That hey, man, I'm in the same ballpark. I was in the same ballpark that Babe Ruth played in, that Ty Cobb played in, Mickey Mantle played in. It didn't hit me till years later and realized, man, that was a huge deal back then. Tommy John surgery and all that. It was Tommy John's last year, I believe. Seeing Carlton Fisk, and Carlton Fisk is like a legend right now. So it's just a huge deal, man. I'll never forget it the rest of my life, man. And it was a surreal day because I could see every molecule in the air. I can hear every sound. I can hear every sound in the air. It felt like everything was going in slow motion, man. Uh, and I was a kid too. I was 10 years old. May 10th would have been my birthday, so that was like kind of like my birthday present right there. So, it was just a huge deal. Spending time with my dad. Uh, man, I'll just never forget it, man. The rest of my life. I still can see the faces in the crowd. I still can smell the cigarette smoke from the stands. Um, I still can see images in my mind. I still can see Don Mattingly batting, with the pine tar on his bat. Um, and baseball was just a huge deal back then, man. It's not what it is like, what it is now. Um, People don't really talk about baseball. Back then, everybody talked about baseball. Everybody, not just one or two people. And this is when ESPN had Baseball Tonight, so shows like that, Baseball Magazine. So it was a huge deal back then, man. I just wanted to share that story right there. It was the same day as the shot from Michael Jordan in Cleveland at the Cleveland Coliseum. I believe that's what it was called back then. I could be wrong. Um, and that was one of the greatest games I've ever seen in my life. So it was just a big sports day all around in Chicago. And if you're from Chicago and if you lived back then in Chicago, you know what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about, because that's when the Chicago Bulls were on the come up. Um, they weren't. They were good, but they weren't that good. They were just on a come up. They didn't really start getting good until a couple years later, and they started building that confidence. But I know the Bulls. They will end up playing the Knicks. I believe it was the Knicks. It might be the Knicks, or it could have been the Sixers in the second round, and the Bulls won that series too. So, but they will end up losing. They ended up losing to Detroit, to the Pistons. And the Pistons were good back then. They ended up losing to the Pistons in 7 games, I believe, in '89. It might have been 6 or 7 games, but I know they lost. And but I just wanted to share that story, and it was my first baseball game. I'll never forget it. You know, I wish I would have kept things. I wish I would have kept the bat from that day. I wish I would have brought a baseball from the shop back then. I wish I would have got some autographs back then, because it would have been worth some money, believe me. So I just wanted to share that story. And this is Brian C. And I'll see you later.